Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I hope that you're having a great week as the snow slowly but surely melts here in coastal Mississippi. But we're going to continue to celebrate the people who are working in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. And one of the people that we celebrated yesterday was Paul Gallo. We honored him, our partner in broadcasting, who passed away last Sunday. Had a terrific kind of recollection of his career with Richard Cross yesterday on the show. And then on the second half of the show, J.T. Mitchell, the news director for SuperTalk Mississippi News, is going to join me, and we're going to continue to have that conversation. But what a week it's been, man. You think about the inauguration. You think about snow in coastal Mississippi. Record. I mean, it was a blizzard here. And, 2-3 days out, we still have snow on the ground here and there. It's just incredible. And speaking of snow on the ground, someone who can really relate to that is my friend Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times Picayune, coming to us from New Orleans, which he does every Friday. Jeff, I mean, people are super creative. I've seen people snow skiing down Bourbon Street, snow sleighing down Canal. I mean, we've seen it all this week, haven't we?
Yeah. I got out on Tuesday about noon, when we started to get some accumulation, and ran into some of my colleagues from Fox 8 on St. Charles Avenue, and we interviewed some guys snowboarding. They were getting pulled behind a Jeep, and they were having the best time out on St. Charles Avenue. I'm sure that's the only time I'm ever going to see that again in my life. But what an incredible couple of days. Historic, Ricky, from so many ways. And everyone was out. I couldn't believe it on Tuesday how many people were out at Audubon Park. Park was packed, people out enjoying it because they knew this was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Listen, the kids and the grandkids couldn't get here because the Pops Ferry Road Bridge was frozen over and they had it closed down. But as soon as it opened, they came on our yard next door. Next to the house, we've got a kind of a playground for the kids, but it's also sloped. It's got a very significant slope to it. And we didn't go there. We didn't walk on it or anything because we wanted the kids to be able to enjoy it. And we did a lot of trial and error. We tried different things to see what would slide the best. And because we spent a lot of time with water sports, Keith Williams and my daughter Tori got the idea to take the wakeboard and take the fin off of it. So they walked over and they took the fin off the wakeboard, and it was just slick bottom, and of course it curved up. And man, they had a blast, man. I mean, Ann actually shared wipeout pictures with all the kids and said, "How are you doing today?" Because they've been through so much. They had been through so many. It was a miracle no one got hurt. But what I thought would be 15 to 20 minutes of fun literally turned into hours and hours of laughing and doing videos and having a good time. I think that was really just happening all over the place.
Yeah, it reminded me of growing up in Louisville. I lived close to a golf course, Seneca Park Golf Course, and that was our sledding area. And I can't tell you how excited we get to go over that, because, I mean, this was a very hilly course, so you had some really long runs down these steep hills. We'd had toboggans and sleds, and, man, it would get packed. And you're right, going back up that hill is a workout in the snow. You'd be sweating out there, and I was sweating on Tuesday out, and you forget how hard it is actually to move. It's kind of like walking through the sand on the beach. But man, what a great experience. I mean, We're coming out with actually a book, with just a photo book on the snow storm, because it's so popular. The photos are so arresting. It's just amazing how beautiful things look in that snow, especially landmarks and things you're not used to seeing in the snow. So I'm looking forward to that book coming out in a couple months. Hey,
my son Jordan Matthews has a little photography thing. He doesn't do it professionally or anything. He just does it as a hobby. And his name is Jordan Rex Matthews, and his photography company, or not company, I mean, it's just his presence. It's called Jordan Rex Photography. And he went down, he got to the beach and took a lot of pictures down at the beach of all kinds of wildlife doing what they do in the snow. And which, as you said, it's arresting. You look at these photos and there's just something, you're drawn to him. He had this wonderful picture of the Biloxi Lighthouse that he did in black and white. It was snow all around it. Just, I mean, these iconic photos. But They posted them at SuperTalk News, and the last I checked, it had been shared hundreds of times. I mean, tens of thousands of people, just drawn to them. So I'm not surprised. I mean, a book about snow in New Orleans. I mean, we will have to wait about 89 years to see that again.
I know. I'll give you a good example, Ricky. So you probably can't see this. You might have seen it on my Twitter feed, but this photo I took, that David Grunfeld, our director of photography, took of the Superdome.
Yeah, yeah.
He sent it to me. He goes, look, that's in there in the system in case you need to use it for something. And I go, well, I'm just going to tweet it out. It's an amazing photo of the Superdome. It's now got 400,000 views on social media. The NFL picked it up. They put it out, obviously, because the Super Bowl is going to be here in a couple weeks. Now, it's all going to be gone, but seeing the Superdome cloaked in a blizzard it's just so unusual.
It is the ultimate dichotomy is that you don't expect you just something you don't expect to see. I mean, like on Back Bay, when you look across the bay, you see all the sloping areas behind the houses that are usually marsh and whatever. Yep. Now it's all white. And I told Ann, I said, look out the back window and imagine that we're in Destin. We're on the bay in Destin looking across the bay. And just imagine that is white sand. And when you imagine it for a second, you say, gosh, I can see that. Wouldn't that be cool to be able to look across at white sand? But all of your senses are being overwhelmed, and all these things that you're used to seeing aren't there anymore. Now they're this now, at least for a short period of time. It's just such an interesting thing. That is so cool. I was going to look at this actually, I'm not able to pull it up. Oh, here it is, right here, actually. And JT Mitchell is going to be joining me in the second half of the show. But I'm looking. I want to see how many times the photos. It's been shared 306 times. I don't know how many. People have ultimately interacted and whatever. But interesting stuff. Look, wow. As the Saints start to look for a new head coach, prospects are falling off the list fast, aren't they?
Yeah, look, and this storm obviously has kind of interrupted the process pretty drastically because you can't get anybody in here to do sit-down interviews. They've had to basically delay the search. But look, this is the way Mickey Loomis operates. This way he's always operated. He's going to be very thorough. He's going to be methodical. He's not going to get rushed. He's not going to worry if they lose another candidate. That's just how he's always operated. So it doesn't surprise me. Look, I think they're going to interview probably a bunch of candidates here at the end of this week and early next week. But there's probably people that they've got on their list, Ricky, that people have not even reported about, that people don't even know about. So I've been cautioning Saints fans, just relax, be patient, because it's going to take a little while. It always does with Mickey.
Hey, just listen, Jeff. We've had lots of talk about ownership and management and challenges with the salary cap and you name it. Okay. But when folks from the outside are looking at New Orleans, do they see this as a job that would be sought after? I say that within the context there's only so many head coaching positions. I understand that. But how is this job viewed?
Well, it's complicated by their salary cap situation. So that's obviously a major hurdle that's going to have to be addressed by whoever comes in here. But there's some real positives to the job. And the main one is, owner Gail Benson, who's very well thought of around the league compared to her peers who either can be very volatile, tempestuous, impatient, demanding. Gail Benson is none of those things. She's very patient, sometimes loyal to a fault, I would say. But that's attractive to a coaching candidate that is going to come into a situation like this and knowing there may be some struggles early on. Am I going to have an owner that's patient? Well, I think Gail Benson certainly is that. So that's very much a positive. But I think the negatives are the salary cap situation, the roster being an aging roster, especially on defense. So how do you fix it? If you can't go out in free agency and really address it, you have to really win big in the draft. And then the other thing is the quarterback situation. You don't really have a long-term answer there. You've got a bunch of maybes, but there's no sure thing there. So the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams or the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence certainly would be more attractive because of the quarterback. And you have to have a quarterback to win at a high level in the league. And it's not that Derek Carr can't win, but he's in his mid-30s. So he's probably not going to be here, probably beyond next season because of his contract. So yeah, there's a lot of questions here that I think a good head coach is going to want answers to.
Well, listen, there is no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, it is clearly now understood by everyone that you got to have a star cornerback to win in this league. You just have to. You look at over and over again who gets in the playoffs, who goes far in the playoffs, who gets in the Super Bowl. You got to have a great quarterback. Just have to. You know, I want to – okay, actually, we're getting to the end of this segment. But when we come back on the other side, you covered LSU. You covered Jaden Daniels. I'm curious about your thoughts. Did you expect what he has done at Washington? It's a pretty amazing story. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times Picayune. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studios. Looking at the video, and I have this black jacket on, and I've been wearing it now. It seems like a week. It's been that cold in the studio for over a week, actually. And so anyway, the shirts are different underneath, but the jacket sure has been handy, that's for sure. We're visiting with my friend Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times Picayune. When we went to break, we got a lot to cover in like one little segment, so we're gonna cram it all in. But Jaden Daniels, man, did you anticipate he was going to make that kind of an impact on the NFL?
I don't think this level, but I thought he would be good. I mean, once he had that great year last year, and look, I think a big part of it was the development of the position at LSU. Matter of fact, I've talked to you a little bit about how I'm trying to pursue a book project on LSU athletics. And one of the chapters will be on the development of Jaden Daniels, which basically he'll tell you right now. I mean, he still uses it, the virtual reality software and technology that he said increased his ability 70% on the field. And he took off after using that. He's still using. I heard Cliff Kingsbury the other day talking about how into that he is. And the Washington Commanders bought that same technology just because of Jaden Daniels. So the guy's very dedicated. And look, he's a phenomenal athlete. He obviously can scramble and run. And I'm starting to think more and more, Ricky, you almost have to have some type of mobility at the NFL level now. I mean, Josh Allen certainly has it. Lamar Jackson, the quarterbacks you see, even Patrick Mahomes, you just got to have it. The athletes are too good, and he certainly has it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Listen, you would normally be going over to the Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl is a great source of inspiration for the Saints, but as you've pointed out many times, great place to go, and the whole league is there. You can get rumors and whatever. I bet, you're all like, you're Super Bowl right now, 24 hours a day. But are you going to miss going over there?
Yeah, it's always fun. I mean, I've got so many great stories and memories of being over Mobile. I can remember the Saints one year under Jim Haslett stayed at the Grand Hotel, kind of off-site a little bit. And so I got a room there, and every night I'd have, beers down at the hotel lobby bar at the Grand with Jim Haslett and the whole staff. Everybody was relaxed, and you just really got to kind of socialize with the coaches, got to know them. And the other story I can think of was there was a hotel in downtown Mobile. I'm trying to think of what it was called. It's an old hotel, Ricky, right there, kind of off-site. And I remember Tom Condon, the superstar agent, used to always stay at the same hotel. And they had this little bar in the back. I mean, a little tiny, tucked away, hidden bar nobody knew about. And Brian Ollie Walsh, my colleague, told me about this place. And we went there, and Tom Condon would always be in there at the end of the night, usually with a date. But this is a guy he was so powerful, you could never get him to return a call, could never get him on the phone. He was Drew Brees' agent. So we needed to get Tom Condon lots of times. We knew we could get him in that bar, and we'd go in there and get drinks with him, and he'd talk to us then, but he would never return your call ever again after that. But you knew you could get him at the Senior Bowl in that little bar that nobody knew about. He knew no one would know about it. So there's this, that's what it's about. It's about going out and running into Jerry Jones, at 1 a.m. in the bar. That's what goes on in Mobile that I think is invaluable compared to looking at the prospects right now. As I mentioned to you before, it's so early in the draft process. It's kind of futile to start talking about prospects. The draft will take care of itself in March and in April. To me, it's more about going down there and enjoying the convention of the NFL.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Listen, when I was publisher over in Mobile, I had the opportunity to be involved in the Senior Bowl. We were one of the sponsors for one of the luncheons with the players. And what I remember about that actually is that Charles Barkley was the speaker for that luncheon. And since I was, since we were one of the sponsors, we got the opportunity to visit with him, and I had some terrific offline conversations with him. But they only made one Charles Barkley, buddy. I mean, what a character he is.
Yeah, he's the best. I mean, the reason he's so popular because he tells the truth, unvarnished, and he's funny as hell.
He is. He's got a great.
And he was a great player. That's what's lost now, I think, is forgetting just how unbelievable he was as a basketball player.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, listen, you are as I mentioned, you're in 24-hour day mode. You're working on a book. The Super Bowl is literally, we're barreling toward the Super Bowl. It's amazing what has to happen in that city to get ready for it.
Yeah, and I think this storm really probably set back a lot of the last-minute construction work they were trying to get done. It's going to be interesting to see how much they get done. Probably not going to come close to finishing everything, but the NFL is already here, a large contingent already here. So, yeah, I mean, we're 2.5 weeks away, Ricky. I know there's already starting to put up some signage downtown. The Superdome's already got signage up. So, yeah, it's upon us, and it's going to be fascinating to see who gets here out of these AFC and NFC championship games this weekend.
Yeah, when I lived in the warehouse district for the last Super Bowl, the teams passed. I mentioned this to you, passed right underneath my window every evening. And man, they have, when you see that bus and how often that bus was moving around, you realize that there is a full schedule. It is a busy week for teams, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, you got thousands of media here. It's become such a global event, an international event. The NFL is trying to expand its footprint internationally. It's a big push for Roger Goodell and his tenure as commissioner. So it's larger than ever. It's really a week of events and parties and extravaganzas built around a 3-hour football game. And it's obviously a huge televised event, too, one of the largest television audiences every year, if the number one audience usually every year. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Look, I'm glad we got this storm out of the way. In a way, I think we dodged a bullet having it now because the weather's going to warm up. I think it's going to be really nice, and we can avoid it. It's funny doing all this historical archival work on this book that I'm working on the past Super Bowls here. It's amazing how many bad weather events we've had here during the Super Bowl. I mean, especially back when the first ones were at Tulane Stadium and they played it outdoors. Ricky, we got bad weather like the first 3 Super Bowls here. They were always bad, cold games.
And that's hey, listen, I saw a video this morning that said February the 5th, we may get another Arctic blast.
Well, if we do, that'll be Super Bowl week.
Yeah, so winter, we could get another Arctic blast. Wouldn't that be something, man? Holy mackerel. But, to have a low in the Gulf to come up against an Arctic blast the way it happened last week, I mean, that's such a very unusual event, at least in terms of cold is not necessarily, but certainly the snow is definitely. That's the way it is.
That's why they built the dome, Ricky, just for that reason. We'll still have a game indoors. We won't have to worry about it.
Hey, listen, we got very little time left. I've been reading about LIV. I'm not a big LIV golf fan. Bottom line, I've said that many times. But it looks like the PGA and LIV are getting closer. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, it sounds like it. Matter of fact, I'm supposed to meet with the Zurich people later this week to talk about that. I mean, they talked about having a tournament here. I haven't seen any update on it, to be honest with you. They were supposed to have a tournament here during the Super Bowl. I'm starting to think that didn't come about. I would have heard about it by now. But yeah, I think eventually we're gonna see a merger. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. More likely, probably down the road. But it almost feels like an eventuality, and that'll be good. Get all these golfers back together on the same tour. Right now, it's kind of watered down on both sides.
Yeah, it really is. I saw. I'm not a big Phil Mickelson fan, but I did see an interview with him where he was talking about how a lot of the focus is on the PGA getting beyond the United States and looking at golf. This is what reminded me when you talked about the NFL and their global goals. That professional golf needs to get on the global stage because there's certainly an audience for it out there. And I mean, I agree with that. I don't know. I don't know how this merger ultimately plays out because there's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of players that don't want to go travel the globe. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out.
Well, they could pick and choose their events, like they do here on tour. But I do think, one of the things the NFL's talked about is the advances of air travel, I think, will make it much more a global sport. I mean, right now, you're held back a little bit by the time it takes to travel, but advances, and there are a lot of them out there where you can travel much faster and get to say Madrid or Paris from the United States much easier. Certainly makes it more conceivable that you have a global league. And I think maybe 20, 30 years from now, that's going to be possible. So I just think they're laying the groundwork right now for these leagues for down the road.
Yeah, they very well may. So, Jeff, your team continues to cover, coming back to the Saints for a second, to cover the best they can this odd time we're in. We're looking for a new coach, et cetera. I've been watching on the internet, and as you and I talk about a lot, there's so much clickbait out there right now about the Saints. It's just crazy. Speculation about what popular players aren't going to be with the team next year, how they're going to manage the salary cap. There's a lot of red meat there to try to get clicks. But you try to steer away from that, don't you?
Yeah, I try to tell people just consider the source. I mean, it's the day and age we're in. But look, nothing's going to happen until they get a new coach hired and they have meetings collaboratively and decide on the roster. So all this other stuff right now is just people trying to get traffic on the internet. Just ignore it.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. Hey, Jeff, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend. Stay warm.
All right, Ricky. We'll talk next week, bud.
You bet. You bet. This has been Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and at Times Picayune. When we come back, we're gonna visit my friend JT Mitchell, and we're going to talk a little bit about our friend after the passing of Paul Gallen. We'll see you after this.